Job was to leave the game better than I came into it. You think Cheryl Miller is resentful for me that I had a league to play in? No, she's being the mentor that she is, and she's supporting and loving and sitting courtside cheering on Juju Watkins. And I'm doing the same for Caitlin Clark and all the women in the WNBA.
Candace Parker, the legendary three-time WNBA champion and one of the greatest players to ever play the game, just delivered what might be the most scathing critique of WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert's leadership we've ever seen, and it wasn't even close.
Candace Parker ended up dropping some big facts on First Take, man, talking about resentment on younger players from older players and retired players. She had a great.
Stephen A. Smith, one of the most respected voices in sports media, interviewed Candace Parker on ESPN's First Take and asked the question everyone in the WNBA world has been waiting to hear. What's the truth behind the so-called resentful narrative surrounding Caitlin Clark? He wanted to know whether veteran players feel overlooked in this new era of women's basketball.
When we look at the WNBA, whether we've speculated about resentment or whatever it is, ultimately it comes down to the fact that there were an abundance of women in the WNBA doing tremendous work on behalf of the WNBA and the game of basketball, and you just sense that folks were feeling an absence of appreciation for what they had done and what their collective contribution was to bring the WNBA to where it is now and where it evidently is going. Can you speak to that collective frustration that some may have been feeling, and whether or not you think it's something that's being overcome as you all thrive and move forward and continue to promote and uplift this?
Now here's where it gets truly powerful. While Cathy Engelbert has been stumbling through tone-deaf comments and seemingly doing everything possible to downplay Caitlin Clark's incredible impact on the league, Candace Parker stepped up and showed the world what real leadership looks like.
Has grown so much, and it's just been amazing to watch. When you put it on television, the numbers don't lie, and visibility matters. Being able to have slots on ABC and ESPN. I know a couple years ago was the first time that the NCAA tournament was put on ABC, and we saw what the viewership looked like. So just looking at the growth of the league, the style of play, now there's being expansion teams and all that stuff. So as a fan, as a lover of the WNBA,
it's so crazy to me because I'm asked so many times if I'm resentful in any way about where the WNBA is right now, Parker said, with the kind of clarity and wisdom that makes you wonder why she isn't running the entire league. My job was to leave the game better than I came into it. Do you think Cheryl Miller is resentful of me because I had a league to play in? No. She's being the mentor that she is, supporting, loving, and I'm doing the same for Caitlin Clark and all the women in the WNBA. Did you hear that? That's the sound of a true leader, someone who actually understands what the WNBA is about, what it represents, and what it needs to continue growing. And it's the complete opposite of what we've been getting from Cathy Engelbert.
I'm like Candace Parker, look, you shouldn't feel that way. The same way she brought up the idea of Cheryl Miller supporting her, that's how everybody should be. But it's more so of they want to paint the narrative that it's a white and black thing going on. And now that toxic energy is spilling over to people who don't even watch the games. So now they feel like they are a part of the league just because they know or feel like they know what's going on with the race thing. Like, cut it out.
If you're enjoying this, please subscribe. Now, let's talk about Cathy Engelbert for a moment because she's been making headlines for all the wrong reasons. Remember that absolutely bizarre comment she made about Caitlin Clark potentially getting hurt? When asked about the Clark phenomenon, Engelbert couldn't even give this generational talent her proper due without immediately deflecting to other rookies. No league's ever about one player, Engelbert said, before adding, the most tone-deaf part. That player could get hurt or whatever. Are you kidding me? Your biggest star, the player who's brought tens of millions of new viewers to your league, and you're casually mentioning that she could get hurt or whatever? This is exactly the kind of leadership that has fans pulling their hair out. But it gets worse. When Engelbert was explicitly asked about the racist and toxic behavior directed at players like Caitlin Clark, she completely fumbled the response. Instead of taking a strong, principled stance against racism and harassment, she offered a weak, wishy-washy comment about how rivalries are good for the league. The WNBA Players Association had to publicly call her out for failing to address the racism, misogyny, and harassment experienced by players. This is supposed to be the person leading women's basketball into the future? This is the commissioner who's going to protect and promote the league's biggest stars? Please.
And when questioned about the racism and sexism some of the players in the W were facing, she compared it to the Magic Johnson-Larry Bird rivalry as no big deal. Actually something that the league wanted to see.
Now contrast that disaster with how Candace Parker approaches leadership and mentorship. When Stephen A. Smith asked her about the frustration some veteran players might be feeling, Parker didn't dodge the question or make excuses. She got straight to the heart of what matters. Let's keep it about basketball, Parker said, with the kind of directness that cuts through all the noise. That's my thing. And when we do that, she explained, we can truly grow the game and everything it represents. I think the WNBA as a whole is in an amazing place. 5 words. Let's keep it about basketball. That's it. That's the entire philosophy that could save the WNBA from the leadership crisis it's currently facing. While Engelbert is out here making strange comments about injuries and failing to address serious issues like racism, Parker is focused on what actually matters, the game itself, and the players who make it great. Parker continued, I think that rivalry is super important. I think conversation is super important. But I want to keep it within the lines of the game. And I think that's what's most important. This is someone who understands that you can have excitement, drama, and compelling storylines without letting things spiral into the kind of toxic mess that Engelbert seems either unwilling or unable to manage.
Everybody has a Twitter finger. Everybody can have reach to, the WNBA and make comments. But really the key is let's keep it about basketball. That's my thing. And when we do that, then we're able to really grow the game and what it represents. There are some talented players that have been in this league. But now, because of visibility, listen, I still know the Dominique Wilkins. I still know, all of those players, the Dr. J's and all that stuff. I don't think they're not salty that MJ came along and grew the game. I mean, that's what it is. And so I think that the WNBA as a whole is in an amazing place. Now it's about business to me. It's about taking care of business and making sure, I would like to see, and I'll say this in the CBA, I would like to see more roster spots because we can't have 11 or 12 women on a team. You gotta, lean into the player growth and player development.
And here's what makes this entire moment even more powerful. Stephen A. Smith, one of Caitlin Clark's most vocal advocates since she entered the league, immediately recognized the significance of what he was hearing from Candace Parker. Could see it in his reaction during their conversation. Here was someone who actually gets it. Someone who understands what the WNBA needs right now. Stephen has been saying for months how vital Caitlin Clark is to the WNBA's growth and long-term success. He's watched Cathy Engelbert stumble through interview after interview, unable or unwilling to fully acknowledge Clark's unprecedented impact on the league. So when he sits across from Candace Parker and hears her speak with such clarity, wisdom and purpose about mentoring the next generation, he's thinking what every WNBA fan is thinking, why isn't this woman running the league?
Merchandise sales will also knowing that she's out for the next 2 weeks.
Speaking of fans, let's talk about the reaction to Candace Parker's comments, because social media exploded with praise. People immediately began contrasting her thoughtful, grounded approach with Engelbert's ongoing string of missteps. Comments like, finally, someone with common sense, and this is what real leadership looks like, flooded timelines after Parker's first take appearance. Fans have been frustrated with Engelbert's leadership for months. They've watched her repeatedly downplay Caitlin Clark's impact, fumble responses to serious issues, and come off as completely out of touch with what the league truly needs. And then there's Candace Parker. Here's someone who retired just before Clark's rookie season. And yet, she's already stepped into a role of support and mentorship with grace, clarity, and wisdom. On one hand, you have a commissioner who seems more focused on spreading credit around than acknowledging the transformational power of a once-in-a-generation talent. On the other hand, you have a 3-time champion who gets it, who knows that uplifting the next generation only makes the entire league stronger.
Happening. Tell us what happened. Tell us when it happened. Talk to the fans about what's going on.
Here's what Candace Parker understands that Cathy Engelbert apparently doesn't. Caitlin Clark isn't just another good player, she's a once-in-a-generation talent who has single-handedly transformed the visibility and popularity of women's basketball. Parker gets this because she was once that transformational player. When she entered the league in 2008, she made history as the first player to win both Rookie of the Year and MVP in the same season. She knows what it means to carry the weight of expectation and to be the face of the league. That's why when Candace Parker talks about Caitlin Clark, She does so with the respect and empathy that can only come from someone who has walked in those exact shoes. "My job was to leave the game better than I came into it," Parker said, and that one sentence tells you everything you need to know about the difference between her leadership philosophy and Engelbert's. Parker sees her role as lifting up the next generation, not competing with them for credit or attention. That's real leadership.
Turned her Twitter private. She hasn't proven or provided evidence that she was at the game yesterday. People who barely watch basketball or grift for engagement picked up on it and it blew up. There's yet to be any video evidence.
And let's not forget the charter flight situation, which perfectly encapsulates the difference between these two women's approaches to leadership. According to Candace Parker, the WNBA announced its $50 million commitment to chartered flights literally on the same day she announced her retirement. Parker shared her retirement post, shed a tear, and then Cathy Engelbert jumped in to take the spotlight by proclaiming chartered flights for the entire league. Some might call it unfortunate timing, but Parker's frustration highlights a much bigger issue with Engelbert's leadership: the appearance of being out of touch with the players who built the foundation of the league. Here's a player who sacrificed her body for 16 years, winning championships and elevating the profile of women's basketball. And the league announces a major improvement in player conditions literally as she's walking away. Whether intentional or not, this sends a clear message about priorities and timing, and it reflects poorly on the league's leadership.
Charter flights. Yeah, the day I retired, I said, this
Literally.
bullshit. This has got to be on some bullshit. They said chartered flight. Like, literally, I pressed send on the little retirement post, shed a little tear, and then Cathy Engelbert want to come out and be like, chartered flights for the whole league. I said,
Yeah. It's
but I'm
great.
happy for y'all. I am. I'm happy. No, but it shows, and that's the thing is like the player experience
Means something.
it means so much, because when you are taken care of and all you have to think of is this, and it's just easier, you play better because that's all you have to think of.
When you watch Candace Parker talk about the WNBA, you see someone who truly understands the delicate balance between honoring the players who built the foundation and embracing the new stars who are taking the league to unprecedented heights. She doesn't view Caitlin Clark's success as a threat to her legacy. Instead, she sees it as validation of everything she and her generation worked so hard to achieve. "I tuned in when Kevin Durant went back and played Russell Westbrook, and they bumped shoulders and everybody was tuned in," Parker said, showing she understands how rivalries and compelling storylines drive viewership. But then she brings it right back to what really matters. "I want to keep it within the lines of the game. This is leadership. This is someone who knows you can have drama, excitement, and compelling narratives without letting things devolve into the toxic cesspool that social media can sometimes become." Meanwhile, Engelbert has consistently failed to strike this balance, either ignoring serious issues altogether or making tone-deaf comments that only make situations worse.
Rivalry is super important. I think conversation is super important. You know, I tuned in when Kevin Durant went back and played Russell Westbrook, and they bumped shoulders and everybody was tuned in, but I want to keep it within the lines of the game. And I think that's what's the most important.
Let's be completely honest about what we're witnessing here. When a retired player demonstrates better leadership, better communication skills, and a deeper understanding of what the league needs than the actual commissioner, that's a problem. When fans are openly calling for that retired player to take over the commissioner's job, that's a crisis. Cathy Engelbert's tenure has been marked by missed opportunities, poor communication, and a seeming inability to fully embrace and protect the league's biggest stars. She's had multiple chances to show strong leadership, especially on issues like racism and player safety, and she has consistently come up short. Meanwhile, Candace Parker has shown what real WNBA leadership looks like. She's demonstrated the kind of vision, clarity, and moral compass the league desperately needs right now. The WNBA is at a crossroads. The league has never been more popular, never had more visibility, and never held more potential for growth. But that growth requires leadership that knows how to nurture and protect generational talents like Caitlin Clark while honoring the players who built the foundation.
All the fans, the WNBA fans, the black women, get used to everyone talking about Caitlin Clark until she retires. And then after she retires, she's still going to be talked about. Because, we never seen nothing like her. So get used to it. You can keep bringing up the fans. You can keep bringing up pathetic stuff. You can keep bringing up non-irrelevant stuff that nobody cares about. Y'all can keep bringing that because y'all going to keep bringing up color, race. If this was any other sport, I'm telling you now, they would not care. I don't care if you blue, purple, orange, yellow. They don't care. They're going to talk about you. But get used to everyone talking about Caitlin Clark until she retires.
Candace Parker has shown she understands this balance. Her approach supporting Caitlin Clark and the new generation while maintaining deep respect for the veterans who came before is exactly what the league needs. Her emphasis on keeping things about basketball, while still acknowledging the important cultural conversations happening around the game, demonstrates the nuanced leadership that can guide the WNBA through this critical period. The question now is whether the league's ownership and board will recognize what fans are already seeing. The WNBA deserves leadership that matches the incredible talent and potential of its players. Candace Parker has shown us what that leadership looks like, and it stands in stark contrast to what we've been getting. The ball is now in the league's court. The players deserve better. The fans deserve better. And most importantly, generational talents like Caitlin Clark deserve leadership that will protect, promote, and celebrate their incredible contributions to women's basketball. Candace Parker just showed everyone what real leadership looks like. The question is whether the WNBA will be smart enough to listen.